far as Indian philosophy is concerned, Indian mythology is concerned, we in India, uh, nothing is static. Everything is changing constantly. The world is constantly changing. We believe that. It is very different from the Western notion that one day all problems will be solved. If you look at how the West moves in its approach to life, is that one day all things will be sorted, everything will be fine. So you have the world being divided into developed economies and developing economies. And the choice of words, developed means there's nothing more to do. And yet a virus comes and everybody faces a huge problem. The best companies, the most powerful people in the world, the richest people in the world are suddenly found lacking leadership skills. We are seeing around the world countries lacking leadership skills, lacking teamwork. Resource allocation is not being done properly. It's a case study. And I'm sure for many, many years, many of y'all will write papers on how decisions were not taken on time, how resources were not allocated. And I think it's a great time for us to ask ourselves, how do we handle the situation going forward? The thing is, we are living in a zone of uncertainty. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Nobody does. No guru does, no economist does, no politician does, no film star does, no astrologer does. Nobody does. The smartest man in the world doesn't know what's going to happen tomorrow. The richest man in the world does not know what's going to happen tomorrow. We are dealing with an uncertain, and it's a biological entity. We don't know. Everything may be fine tomorrow, or may not. Another virus may come. We really don't know. We can't afford to be unhappy and give up, because this is the moment of leadership. Leadership is about constantly empowering, enabling people, and most important learning I have had in this time is a leader is someone who knows what he or she cannot do. Many leaders assume that they know everything. I'm sure you are dealing with bosses right now who think they know everything. In our country, especially, we believe that not knowing is a sign of inferiority. So many parents tell me that their children come and ask me some strange stories from Ramayana, Mahabharata, and say, what is the reason for this? And my standard answer is, I don't know. Let's Google it together. Because I tell the parents, it is okay not to know. It is okay to be insecure, to be vulnerable. It doesn't make you weak. Awareness of weakness is important. So when you look at Ramayana and Mahabharata, what are the stories telling us? The stories are telling us is nothing is predictable. Nothing is predictable. Ram is about to be crowned king. Everything is fine. He's about to be crowned king, and he's suddenly told for no reason and no fault of his, you will go to the forest for 14 years. It is like in HR, we have special projects, right? Suddenly, for no reason, you are told you will be in special project, and you're like, oh my God, am I being kicked out of the company? Am I being sidelined? And therefore, we have to be aware that in life, there is no happily ever after. Things keep changing. Change management is always going to happen. And right now, we have to ask ourselves, we are going through a crisis. This crisis does have an expiry date, but we don't know the quality of the expiry date. We don't know what's going to happen. So every day will be a new game. So there is no happily ever after. If today a decision is taken, it can be changed today evening. It can be changed tomorrow. Decisions will change. Organizational structures will change. Payrolls will change. Everything will change. And it will happen every day. And therefore, you'll have to rationalize people. You'll have to tell people to leave jobs. You will have to tell people that they will be paid less. You will be forced to tell people that your job description is changing. You will have to wonder on what basis will you appraise people. These questions will now emerge because the financial year began with a horrible situation. The first quarter is gone. Second quarter, we don't know. Third quarter, we're not even thinking about. That's the way it is. What can we do? Can we create a framework that will constantly be with us, that will enable us? When in doubt, we look at the framework, make a nice printout of it, and say, hey, can I work with this framework? Because a framework is like a little chart that we have that enables us to deal with the situation. I look at what we are going through right now as something which happens, Arjun is having an eye crisis in Kurukshetra. Arjun was famous for shooting the eye of a bird. He was very famous for focus. He could shoot the eye of a bird. He then shot the eye of a fish and got a beautiful wife called Draupadi. All his life, he was on focus. He was told focus, 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 which is what we tell our teams: focus on your job, focus on your responsibility. We say, do your job properly, don't think about other people. Exactly the way Krishna said, do your swadharma, don't focus on paradharma. Focus on what you do. This focus leads to crisis when you have to look at perspective. When he comes to the battlefield, when Krishna comes to the battlefield, sorry, when Arjun comes to the battlefield, he for the first time realizes behind the target there is a person, and behind the person is his cousin brother, his uncle, his teacher, and that perspective shakes him up. Focus, perspective are two opposite ends of the spectrum. We need focus, but we also need perspective. And traditionally, management has perspective, and people in the front line are supposed to have focus. But right now, we all are having a crisis of focus, and we are having a crisis of perspective, both. Because why crisis of focus? We don't know what to focus on, we don't know what to prioritize, and the crisis of perspective because we don't know what's going on. What is going on, not just in the virus and the world out there, epidemiologically, how many infected, is my city in the hot zone, cold zone? I don't know anything. Is it orange, red, green? What is the problem with migrants? I don't know what my boss is thinking. And therefore, I'm insecure right now. Will I have a job tomorrow? Will I do the same job tomorrow? So motivation has become an issue because, hey, if a boss is talking to you and having a town hall meeting, is he preparing you for a rationalization? These insecurities. So we are living in a real world out there where the virus exists, and another world in our heads will our jobs exist. If Arjun's crisis was, is violence better or is justice better, and it was torn between violence and justice, we are torn between safety on one side and starvation on the other. And I'm using the word starvation very brutally because we have got jobs and our jobs are at risk. Every day when you're watching the migrant laborers going home and not able to reach home, we remind ourselves that ultimately going out of the house is all about income. Everybody travels for an income, for a livelihood. We are all working for a livelihood. And if we are not able to go to our place of work, how do we survive? And that fear, that suddenly you realize that the economy, Lakshmi, is at the heart of a civilization. Goddess Lakshmi, and she can disappear like that. In 1 second, she can go away. Now we understand the real meaning of Lakshmi, Chanchal hai. She is never in one place in one time. The richest companies are now facing bankruptcy. People whose market value was in crores and hundreds of crores are suddenly seeing things slide down. There's artificial movements happening out there. That's been the case. I can go on and on. Let's ask ourselves, what can we do? What is the framework? First framework is perspective and focus. Always talk in these two angles. The large perspective and the focus. With whom are you talking? What do they need to know? If you're talking to the housekeeping staff, what do you do? If you're talking to the person working, what do you do? If you're talking to management, what do you do? With shareholders, if shareholders today don't have perspective, they will not be generous. And if they're not generous, their long-term sustainability is going to get affected. If at this time shareholders are greedy and only give gratitude without generosity is the worst disease in the corporate world. And generosity is not paying money to CSR, to the Prime Minister's fund only. It is about being generous with our workforce and figuring out how do we flexibly work with them so that they can give us the best, right? So the framework I propose to people, and of course educate, and we all have based on it, is the concept of yoga as it is told in the Bhagavad Gita. Now yoga is a very simple meaning. It is not, I don't want to give some complex meaning about yoga. Yoga is about connection, connecting people. Viyog means separation. Yog means connection. That's all it means. So as an organization, we have to be connected to our talent. Our talent is connected to the market, and our talent is connected at many levels with support staff. We all depend on support staff. Remember, many of you all don't have maids in the house. You all are used to it. Babysitters. cooks, cleaners. Many of you all work outside the house. Now, husband and wife both are working in the house as a company. Are you aware of the toll it takes on the husband and wife who are both working, children on the same table, in a small house? How are they managing? All these factors have to be considered. If support staff is to come to your office, some of the offices are opening up. How are they coming? Logistics become important. So these are questions that are going to emerge. All these questions are going to emerge. So when you think of yoga, so write it down. The words which I would key words for you are perspective, focus, and then comes yoga, which is about relationships. And there are three frameworks given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. He divides relationships on three grounds. He uses First, he talks about karma, action, so karma yoga, what you do. Then, for the first six chapters, he talks about karma yoga. Then he talks about bhakti yoga. He doesn't talk about jnana yoga. He talks about bhakti, emotion. He talks about emotion for six chapters, and then he goes to jnana yoga. Last, only in the end, he gives jnana. So first, he says what you're supposed to do. Then he gives focus on emotions, and then he focuses on the intellectual aspects of it. Intellectual being the last point. So three things are there. There's no audio. Well, my audio seems to be fine. Okay. Maybe there was some lag over there. Right? So these three frameworks, Karma Yoga, then Bhakti Yoga, and the Jnana Yoga. What is Karma? What am I supposed to do today, now, at this moment? And again, look at the focus of it and the perspective of it. Perspective tells us why. Perspective tells us why it is happening. Right? So you need focus and perspective. You need focus as well as perspective of action. But then comes emotions. Please remember, everybody you are talking to is insecure. There is not a single insecure person. There's no person out there who's secure. Nobody. There is no strong man. We all pretend to be very proud, strong, and we are all scared and we're scared because we don't know. We are in a sea of uncertainty, and therefore it is a time to give moral courage to people. What Indians call moral courage. This is a very important thing to have. This is what we need to have. So we need to balance our action. We have to balance our action with emotions, right? Action and emotion. Emotions play a very important role, and by emotion, I'm specifically targeting the emotion of fear, insecurity. So you have got, and once you have got that, emotion, the third part is the jnana. What do we know about the disease? What do we know about our work? The intellectual components to be prepared with. Why is jnana important? Is because many times there are unpredictable situations. You may train a person for a particular job, but he may not be prepared for an unsolicited situation. Knowledge enables us to handle plans, situations that were unprecedented. What we will do now, very, very importantly, is you have to create a Venn diagram. Please create a Venn diagram which uses Jnana on one side, Bhakti on the other, and Karma on the other. The reason for this is many times people think Karma can exist without Jnana, Karma can exist without Bhakti. Robots or machines or artificial intelligence does not have emotions. So there is no bhakti component, and therefore you cannot have a yoga with them. You can't connect with artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence will have knowledge, jnana, but it is only copy paste a set of rules and algorithms. It does not have unprecedented, it doesn't have access to imagination. So it will not have that. The imagination which human beings have. And finally, action. Machines can act very well, but humans have to act with emotions and with knowledge. And therefore, bhakti does not exist without knowledge, and knowledge does not exist without action. All three things are critical. You need Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Karma Yoga. All three as a Venn diagram. You need the center of it. You can't say I am an intellectual person and I will not have an EQ. You cannot say I will only think emotionally and I will not be intellectual. And you can't say I'll be intellectual and emotional and not do. I always want people, when people say, I have gratefulness, I have gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. I said, are you generous? And many people who are very grateful are never generous. Generosity is action, where there is also Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. So only gratitude is just words. Generosity is very important in this time. We are going through a very bad phase. We have to have generous and prepare ourselves to move from what the Jains called avasarpini to upasarpini, from the downward trend to the upward trend, from the dushana to the shushana, in every situation. At home, at on the road when you're traveling to office, you're at home, at office, at the office space, between the bathrooms, between the service sector and the management, everywhere there is going to be a lot of change. We have to maintain positivity, have focus, have perspective, maintain the yoga, not the josh, but the yoga, and every situation, please make a list of the karma yoga, the bhakti yoga, and the jnana yoga. The action that you're supposed to do, the emotion and trust and the feeling, and help people cope with their insecurities. It is okay to be insecure. It is okay to lose it once in a while. The rest of us have to support people in that. And finally, yeah, we have to keep updating ourselves with the latest knowledge and technology, not just about the disease, but also ways in which we can work so that we can quickly come out of the situation and reach a decent place where we are both effective and efficient. That is an important thing, right? So I'm telling people, we have always talked about, people talk about gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. This is not the time for gratitude. This is the time for generosity. Intellectual generosity, jnana yoga, emotional generosity, bhakti yoga, and work, shram, work generosity, financial generosity, space generosity. We are all living in these small places, sharing spaces, not moving out of the house. We need to be a little generous with people in terms of space, in terms of time, in terms of money. You allow them to make mistakes. It's okay. You see the connection between jnana, bhakti, and karma, which is hand, the head, the heart, and the hands. Do not separate the two things ever. They have to work together. We can keep talking about this, but that's what I meant. In order to be happy, but not ever happy. You keep changing, the situation is changing. How to maintain the happiness in a fluctuating ecosystem? Have focus, have perspective, know that it is constantly changing, have relationships. And when you're dealing with relationships, look at it from an action point of view, an emotional point of view, and an intellectual point of view to combine the two things. And I'm sure we will find a way out to this crisis. And we will survive, as we always have. Thank you. Namaskar. We have time for questions, so I think we can ask questions and we'll take it up from there. Specific things that I may not have spoken about. I just wanted to give you a framework, so that's what we have done. We'll wait for Esther to come and she will ask questions. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Renuka, Cynthia, Priyanka. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bhupesh. Reading suggestions, you can read my Gita, my book, my Gita, you can download it. My videos are all there. Yeah. Yes.
We just have 10 minutes, but let's see how many we can cover. So the first question that I've chosen is from Nidhi Bhartia. She's going to put you on a bit of a spot because she's asking you, can you share some examples of leaders today? And you share with us that, in many ways we have a leadership crisis because we're seeing how we're not able to step up to that need. Any example of leaders today who fall under the 3 yogas that you mentioned? Okay. Any good role models we can look up to?
The problem is we are getting access to limited information. I don't know the leaders personally. In my experience, I've read a lot about good leaders, but when I've met them personally, I've been disappointed. So, so we have to be, some PR departments do a very good job. So we have to be a little careful when we are commenting on public figures. But broadly, from what I have seen, the women leaders have surpassed themselves over the male leaders. And that has been an observation across the board. People have observed very clearly that there has been more empathy, there has been more focused discussion and continuous communication, empathy plus continuous communication plus firm action being seen by women leaders across the country. So we've seen in Germany, we've seen in New Zealand. Of course, we can argue that they deal with smaller countries, more educated countries. India is a unique situation. It's a complex answer. I mean, I have certain views, but we live in political time. Let's not to make a comment on that.
Well answered. Wonderful. So next question is from Tuhin Sarkar. His question is, how do leaders build trust in uncertain times and inspire confidence, especially when we have to take and accept tough decisions?
I think leaders have to show a little bit of generosity. And that really, unfortunately, begins with the shareholders, because they have to question the plans for the following year. First question, do they want to stick to the plans, and how much of them are they going to be willing to be generous? You see, this is a humanitarian crisis of an unprecedented scale. And if they can't be generous with their own employees, they can't be generous with the rest of the world. So step one, let's see how generous they can be. And it begins with the shareholder. I will not say CEO, I will say shareholder, because the CEO's hands are tied by the shareholders. So shareholders' generosity, and it comes to, even if I'm letting people go, can I do it in a decent way? Can I do it without taking away their dignity? Can I do it in a way that they feel that they are not stripped of their dignity, because it costs nothing to keep people's dignity in place? We can do it nicely. We can give them a decent package, remuneration, figure out a way, handhold them and say that, you know what, when things get better, we'll get you back. Nice words cost nothing, but we have to make a policy system whereby nobody's rude to anybody who's leaving or being told to leave the organization. I think this is something I have seen people being nasty for no reason. It costs nothing. It absolutely does not have any impact on the balance sheet, but somehow they feel when I have to fire people, I have to be rude. I've seen these horrible practices, HR practices, which are unnecessary. I think they're just vile and unnecessary, and not good for the brand at all. I think that is something that will take care of. Even if you're removing people, you're breaking a contract. You're not breaking a relationship. We must remember this one sentence. Break a contract, don't break a relationship. Do it nicely, not nasty.
Very nice. Nicely said. Nicely said. Shika's question is, how do we keep people motivated and focused? You talked about focus and perspective. How do we do that across the organization? Any tips in particular? So you shared about us the framework of the 3 Venn diagram. How do we translate that into everyone else in the team and keep everyone motivated?
I think when we're talking to people, now I have become this post-it expert. I'm obsessed with post-its. I keep telling people, write down the 3 jobs you must do right now. And sometimes it forces you, like a school child, you have to tell people, write down what you can do. Write down what you can't do. And those basic things like what is your zone, a sphere of influence and sphere of concern. And many a time we are not focusing on the sphere of influence, we are focusing on the sphere of concern. Oh my God, the world is coming to an end. Imagine if Noah's Ark is happening and the world is coming to an end. You have to ask, have you brought the log of wood? Have you brought the nails and the hammer? Can we focus on that? Because I can't do anything about the rain. I can't do anything about the flood. But I can make sure that, I hammer things in the right place and don't hack the boat. So let's focus on those 3 things that we have to do now. And sometimes what happens is many people, when they pick up the phone and talk, they really want an emotional vent. They really don't want a solution. So don't give solutions all the time. Listen. People are not looking for solutions. They're looking for a shoulder to cry on. I mean, your time is limited. Don't give more than 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, you can say, okay, fine, now let's get back to work. Otherwise, you will have people whining and crying all the time, which is not healthy.
All right. So Tahir, I'm going to take 2 more questions, last 2 questions. That Tahir is asking, what is the key difference between generosity and gratitude? So you spoke about focusing on generosity. what are the key difference?
In gratitude, I say thank you. In generosity, I actually give something, actually do something. You see, words are cheap, actions are expensive. So many people who talk about gratitude never talk about generosity, and that's a mischievous thing that I've seen. You see, pay it forward. Somebody has been kind to you. You can say thank you to someone else, but can you pay it forward? It's a trust thing. Generosity is a habit, is a practice. It is about looking at other people's hunger. Gratitude is about thinking about your hunger and being relieved your hunger has been satisfied. So it's about you. Gratitude is about you, while generosity is about someone else. I think we have to, at this time that we're going through, it is about looking at others, and yourself you'll manage. But can you please look at other people? And I think generosity is the word for 2020 and 21.
Very beautifully said. Beautifully said. Last question. I'm taking Mahesh's question from Ramayana and Mahabharata. Which personas can you relate to the HR function? And if you can, I can take one extrapolation and say, what will be your word of advice to the HR leaders in this function from that persona? Your closing question.
I think everybody knows the HR person is going to be Krishna, because he's out there. He's not actually fighting the battle, but he's enabling people to fight the battle. He's not out there in the market, but he's behind and enabling people to fight in the market. And I think the biggest lesson over there is that, there are no guarantees. There are no guarantees. We are living in a sea of uncertainty and a sea of, that means there is no guarantee in life. How do you motivate people in a world without guarantees? That is the whole thing. That is why this whole idea of, because nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know. Even the smartest guys, we are all in crisis. Children, what they do, they hold on to their pillows. We all hold on to our pillows in security. So even bosses will do that. Your bosses are going to turn into children. Your shareholders, your leaders, you will turn into a child. Hopefully when you turn into a child, somebody will be out there to help you out. So as Krishna, you are the Krishna on the chariot, you are riding. Yes, you will motivate people, but no, there are no guarantees. And you have to, when Gandhari curses Krishna, he doesn't curse her back. He allows people to shout at him, absorbs it, and holds and takes the venom in. I think you have to do that job. It is going to be tough, but you have to do it.
Wonderful, Devdutt. I can't think of a better way to close our virtual conference than with these 30 minutes of pure gift that you've given us today. I think from the Venn diagram of hands, heart, and head to the definition of generosity to your gift of reminding us that we are the Krishnas. And while we have to motivate and bring that energy, there is no guarantees. There's happily, but not ever after. So thank you, Devdutt, for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for joining us. I want to say a big thank you for all of you wonderful learners. You've been fantastic through the morning. It's been a pleasure to host you. We've made every single session so meaningful. We at People Matters, we believe this is a great time to become a better version of ourselves. And I think through these events and partnerships, we really want to make that difference and hopefully bring that generosity back to everyone in the community. Our deep gratitude, in this case, to our wonderful speakers and our partner, SAP SuccessFactors, for their support and really bringing us together in this event. So we will see you very soon with much more learning initiatives like this. Thank you once again, everyone, and have a wonderful day ahead.